Hello and welcome back to the Byline. So the latest news regarding Chelsea is that they may be looking to bring Frank Lampard in as interim manager. So I'm joined by Ben, and we're going to discuss what this could mean by A for Chelsea, B for Frank Lampard, and see what we expect will happen come the end of the season. So Ben, firstly, what do you think about the decision?
I think it's a strange decision, to be honest with you. I think Lampard didn't do that well at Chelsea. Some may say he'd done okay with the resource that he had. But I mean, he got sacked and then to go away, go to Everton, get sacked, and then for them to consider him to come for 8 games, it's just a bit. It's just weird. It's just a bit of a laughing stock scenario, isn't it? Really?
From the Chelsea point of view, and the
Yeah,
Lampard
exactly.
point
Yeah,
of view when you think about it, because what does that, if you're Frank Lampard, you've got to obviously consider what does that say about you. He was sacked by Chelsea, replaced by Tuchel, um,
yeah,
and then suddenly Chelsea. It's almost like a save face kind of scenario. Bring the fans back on board and hire Frank Lampard. The
yeah.
thing that I think about that scenario as well is that you look at, since Bowley took over, he wanted to kind of distance himself away from what Roman Abramovich was doing,
Yeah.
and what he's actually done is brought him closer to that by reinstating Frank Lampard, who at the time many people thought he was just there to sort of bridge the gap between him and the fans. Bring in a club legend, a hero, a fan favorite to get the fans on board. It looks like history is repeating itself.
Yeah, I mean, from Lampard's perspective, it's probably a no-lose scenario because you go into there with no really, you can't really do much worse, right? Even if you finish one position lower than what they are now, it's not really worse. Or you go in there and you finish 2 places higher, and it's been a decent thing. But I mean, I think I could be wrong. We'd have to check, but I think he's actually being announced as the new interim manager now. Um, just from
So it's an actual decision that's been made.
what I'm currently reading, I believe so. We'd have to get that one checked to confirm it. But I mean, look, if he comes in and he wins the Champions League, for example, maybe does he become a more desirable manager? Like,
Well,
is he classed as a desirable manager now?
well, my next question would be exactly that. Do you see Lampard staying on beyond the end of this season, or is he
No.
just going to be there to fill a gap? So
Yeah,
what if Chelsea do win the Champions League?
I don't think it's gonna matter. I don't think they'll want Lampard as a permanent manager in there. But I mean, of course, I want him to win the Champions League. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Finish fifth and win the Champions League would be quite a dramatic success for Lampard and Chelsea. But I don't know. Maybe Todd Bowley's just getting a fan favourite in there just to try and appease any potential issues. Maybe there was disgruntled part of fans out there that didn't like the fact that he got sacked. I mean, Lampard was at the game yesterday as well against Liverpool,
Yeah.
which was an indication that I don't know. He is obviously a fan, but it may be an indication that the talks were already ongoing for him to come in for the interim position. But yeah, I just think it's a strange decision all round.
Well, the one thing that I initially thought was when Lampard took over the Everton job, one of the things that he was criticised for is lacking any real striker and Everton's ability to score goals. Obviously, Chelsea's biggest problem this season, which was no more evident than last night against Liverpool,
Yeah,
was that they can create a ton of chances, but they've just got no one that can put the ball in the back of the net. So
yeah.
if you're Chelsea and if you're Frank Lampard, what do you define as a successful interim period? Is it just stabilising the club? Is it moving up the table? I just don't see what they're bringing Lampard in for over keeping
Um,
the who was in charge last night in charge.
but I don't think stability can really be within the conversation because unless they plan on keeping him and they offer him a contract and stuff, I don't think stability a right thing to say. Okay, Lampard come in and stabilise what we're doing, and the fact that Lampard obviously got sacked previously from Chelsea for poor results. I mean, what's he learned since he left?
More poor
Yeah,
results.
he obviously had an achievement in keeping Everton up into the division, which was a good achievement. There's no denying that. But then put him in the relegation zone, or 1 or 2 points above the relegation zone before he got sacked. So I don't know. I don't know what the motive is to bring him in, other than just to make the fans happy for a little bit. Maybe there's talks obviously with other managers which we know about. Maybe it's a case of just getting into the season, get the other manager signed, ready, and then obviously then take control at the end of it. I don't know.
Well, that leads into another interesting debate. Nagelsmann from Bayern Munich, he obviously has lost his job and Tuchel's been put in charge, but they haven't actually officially sacked Nagelsmann. They've put him on gardening leave. So does this look like it's a means to an end for Chelsea, bringing someone on a short-term deal, 8 games, and then once this whole gardening leave scenario is sorted out with Nagelsmann, bring him in as the full-time Chelsea manager so he can start at the beginning of the season from fresh and then see where he can take Chelsea from there?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't actually know if Nagelsmann's been approached from Chelsea. I know that Luis Enrique has. I don't know. I think with Chelsea, I think nothing would surprise me at the moment. It wouldn't surprise me, if they poached Roy Hodgson away from Crystal Palace for 8 games. But no, on a serious note, my assumption would be that they're just going to get someone in just to fill the gaps for the end of the season. It's already a failed season, bar if they win the Champions League, which I don't think that's likely. So get someone in there, see the season out, and then start complete fresh from the end of the season.
Yeah, and then from a Frank Lampard point of view, you said that it's a win-win scenario for him. Obviously, he could lose if he does worse and takes them further down the table. But do you see this as a way back in for him into management if he does a good job at Chelsea? If he gets them scoring goals or gets them moving up the table, then other clubs will look at him and see him as a viable option again.
But yeah, maybe. And I think that maybe is what Lampard's saying. Like, come in there, I've got the fans behind me. I know he doesn't even know the team anymore, does he? Because there's like plenty of new players since he left. But so the fans are going to be behind him. The fans will come in, maybe shout that a little bit louder on match day, and hopefully that can kind of drive him through. I don't think Lampard's tactically inept, because he'd done a good job at Derby. He had obviously a few lone players.
He did do a good job at Chelsea in the first season, because obviously they had the transfer ban. And then his job was to bring through the younger players, so the likes of Mason Mount and people like that. Obviously, he worked, I believe, with Mount at Derby.
Yeah.
But he actually did a decent job. It was the second season that he struggled.
Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, you've seen through numerous amount of managers that have gone through Chelsea that managers struggle, and they inevitably get sacked. So I don't think. I mean, if he comes in and finishes 15th and somehow does worse, then it's probably not going to go great for him. But I'll assume that he'll probably sustain where they are, or at least move up a couple of positions, and then that might just buy him that bit more confidence then to maybe go for another Premier League team. But I think, I mean, we all thought anyway, Chelsea was probably a bit out of his depth.
I think I'm not against the idea of Lampard as a manager. I think there is sort of like a historical phenomenon that former like top players don't end up becoming top managers, and it's normally the players who weren't well known or weren't well regarded for being players at the time tend to go on to become the better managers. So you look at the likes of Jurgen Klopp, Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, none of them really known for their playing career. I think Guardiola is probably an exception to that rule, because he was quite a good established player for Barcelona. Yeah. But obviously with Frank Lampard, the history I think when he became Chelsea manager, I think there was a lot of thing around him becoming the manager that will it ruin his legacy as a cult hero? And I suppose this is an opportunity for him to right a couple of the wrongs that happened. Then maybe if the shine has gone off him a little bit with the Chelsea fans, which I don't think for a second that it has.
No.
If he goes in there, gets some scoring, gets them moving up the table into a European spot, whether it's fifth or sixth, then suddenly the fans will view him back in that cult hero status. So I do agree to win-win from his point of view, but I think that what it does highlight is that the circus that's surrounding Chelsea at the moment, it's just you don't know what's going to go next.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You could have a scenario where, as you say, they could sack Lampard tomorrow after appointing him, and then bring in Patrick Vieira or Roy Hodgson, as you said. But yeah,
Yeah. But that's the thing. I don't think his status with Chelsea fans is necessarily bad. But I think if you was to interview 1,000 Chelsea fans now and say, "Would you have Frank Lampard back as your manager?" I would probably assume that 90% of them would say no, given the fact that the other managers that are currently on the cards and available. But yeah, it's a surprise, and I didn't really think that it would actually materialise even after the rumours. But good luck to him.
Yep. So that's the latest news. In case anyone hasn't heard, Frank Lampard is to be appointed the Chelsea interim manager, taking over from the sacked Graham Potter until the end of the season. Thank you for watching.